I'm really getting nervous about the 3 because I was getting that right out there. The Western guy. Because I'll tell you, I went into the book and we were having those little black.
You guys are sitting way back there?
And out of the pocketbook finish had some that they could have was bigger than the normal one. It was big black. Well, they're little round.
Well, I got you found one before that I killed. Was it lit on me when it come
Yeah, it
in?
was on the floor.
And I
Not
just no, I did not put a I squeezed it. I killed it.
Yeah, they're out on the tables by the
The
side.
the Mexican restaurant didn't have them like
You must have come in the wrong door.
No.
you.
Did you say right door, wrong door?
She said.
How is everyone? In a minute, the air conditioning will cool on and we'll actually not cook in here.
Are we cooking now?
I am cooking. Of course, we did everything that we normally do in 2 hours. We did in half an hour, so you can understand why I might be a little
Cooking.
yes, cooking.
Then go.
I gave up all my keys to this building, and apparently the only ones that have keys now is the bishop. And so I had nobody had keys to do anything. We couldn't get in the building, and so much fun. Anyway, we got in, so all's good. You ready for an action-packed class? We have lots to talk about. And I even have a surprise for you at the end. Some new information that probably most of you don't know and will want to know. I just got a text that apparently there's some big solar flare going on the sun, and there's like a 60% chance that it could affect communications and stuff on Earth.
Oh my goodness.
So, no. That's not part of the class. Oh,
Juicer?
Pasta. Just make it. Pasta and bacon. Bacon and chicken. Yeah, tomorrow. Oh,
Did you sign in? I didn't sign in. Did you sign in? Well, I got it down.
yeah, the church is L8 and 40.
Well, it would be.
So I'm like 3 streets down.
This is
Good care, good care.
I think she's it's on 31st, but now on 17th. Is that thing you can buy? And it's free. And it's 2 Walmarts that way. And so it's
L straight down. Go left, and it's exactly 1 mile down. And you can take that back to the street. I'll give you back.
You're such a good girl.
damn.
Well, luckily she's going someplace at the Zaycon. She's coming up for the Zaycon food.
Yeah.
Well, and Waco has a whole bunch of new stuff. I just was there this morning. And their adult department, they have a whole bunch of, especially if you're really free, they got a whole bunch of Okay, we're going to start. Wait, am I on or not on?
What were you just saying? You're not on the air conditioner, though, is?
Hey, wait, can you hear me?
Not quite. Now.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? We need to turn it up. It doesn't sound very loud.
Sounds like it's way off in the distance.
I know. She says it's good in the back. You know why yours isn't on in the front? Because sometimes it makes it do feedback. So I turned the one off up here.
Okay.
So you have to listen really carefully with your listening ears. Okay. I'm not teaching preschool anymore. Hey, I want to welcome everybody tonight. We have so much to go over tonight. Besides the 3 classes, we are going to talk about what's going on in June. So it's sort of like a little mini class about that. And we have some information, some surprise information for the end. At the end, so you have to stay all the way to the end if you want to hear the good stuff. But anyway, we're very excited. I've been canning for the last 2 days. My family was in town last week. So I had like from Tuesday till today to get ready for a class. And so I learned how to can beans, and I made apple pie filling that's just delicious and so easy. And I made freezer jam, but I forgot to bring one in here so you can't see it. But anyway, so you're gonna get to and this is a sampling of some of my meats that I've canned. As you can tell, this is where my heart lies. So I chose canning to teach tonight. Okay, so we are gonna talk tonight about putting up the harvest, but first we're going to have an opening prayer
Janet?
by Janet Hill, who comes up from North Hollywood every month for class, along with the front row up here. Okay.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this time that we're having up here. We ask you to be with our instructors, that we learn, and may remember some of these things that we're doing, God. Please be with them and help us to understand what they're trying to teach us. Please bless all those who go along the way. They may go home in safety. Be with us, Lord, this day, I pray in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Okay. You ready? We're going to get started. Okay. Last month, we learned all about gardening and using stuff in your garden in the Garden Goodness class. So we paired it with this class because this is how to actually do something with your gardening, with things that you grow in your garden that can last you through the winter. The way that the pioneers used to do it is they would grow everything in about a 3-month period and do mad feverish canning and drying to put stuff up so they would have food to last through the winter. And so we are going to talk for this month about putting up the harvest. All right, so our class tonight is divided up into 3 classes. We have Carefree Canning, which I'm going to do. We have Steam Juicing, which Linda Bascom is going to do, and we're going to conclude with Dry It You'll Like It, and Linda Judd is going to do that. And she is the proud new owner of a new dehydrator because she loved doing it so much. So she got one like this over here, a little catalog. You'll learn about those later. So these are all great classes, and I think that you're going to love all of them. All right, so this is how I feel. I'm so excited. I know I tell you those kind of class a lot, that my classes are, I always think it's my favorite class, but I have to tell you that really every class becomes my favorite class. When you teach the classes and you learn them and you're doing them, you just learn to love it. And as Linda will tell you, she just learned to love dehydrating because she started dehydrating. And as you learn to do it, and hopefully tonight we're going to get you enthused enough, you're going to want to go home and try to do some of these things because they're very beneficial to you. Okay, so why put up the harvest? It was funny, my husband was talking to me the other night, he's like, Debbie, do you have a slide in there about why you do this? I'm like, I don't know, that might be a good one to add. So this is for my husband. So why put up the harvest? Now, if you look in the picture, which you can tell is from a very long time ago, but it does not look like a whole lot of fun doing what they're doing. Canning and dehydrating is a little bit of hard work, especially when it's hot in the summertime, and especially when you're being overrun with, loads and loads of tomatoes and green beans and things that you need to do something with. But luckily for us, it's only for a short amount of time, and the benefits are so great. So one of them is that you save money, and especially canning not so much, although I do with the meats. Not so much the fruits and vegetables, because you can get a lot of that cheaper buying it already canned. But there are reasons why you still want to learn how to do it. But I do save a lot of money canning my own meats. You can enjoy your garden goodness year-round. You can customize the taste and the size of things. My husband and I, it's just the two of us right now at the house, and so we don't need a whole lot of food anymore. So all of my canning is getting done in pints because that is a pound of meat, and it's a usable amount. I even did some apple pie filling in a pint because I thought I could make a little apple crisp would be like the perfect size for the two of us. So it's great dehydrating and canning because you can customize it to your own thing. I told you I did beans yesterday. So one of the bean recipes that I just found was for El Pollo Loco's barbecued black beans, which I love, and which they've gotten really chintzy on because they like water them down now. But so I found a recipe for it. So I made it, and I now know that next time I make it, I'm going to double the barbecue sauce, and I'm putting less liquid in it so it'll be thicker. But that's why practicing, you figure out when you try the recipes the first time, don't make a ton of it at once, because if you don't like it, then you're in trouble. Okay, also, we have talked about doing basic food storage, and if all you have stored is basic food storage, it's going to be very bland and very boring. So, by doing some of the canning and dehydrating and having some of those as part of your storage, it can turn your mediocre meals into magnificent meals, which is what we're hoping for you to do, not only in emergencies, but every day. A lot of these things are just things that we eat in our everyday life, and I'm telling you, canned meats especially, you don't have to cook them, they're already done when you can them. So you can just dump them in, you don't have to, go through all the rigmarole that you do when you're going to be, especially like beef stew, it's like a 2-3 hour process. So, it makes it faster. All right, Brigham Young said in 1942, we urge every householder to have a year's supply of essential foodstuffs. This should, as far as possible, be produced by each householder and preserved by them. The utmost care should be taken to see that the foodstuffs so produced and preserved by the householder do not spoil, for that would be a waste, and the Lord looks with disfavor upon waste. The Lord is doing His part. He expects us to do ours. So I love that. I, through the years, have had people tell me that they're not going to get food storage because the Lord will just provide manna. And I say to them, the Lord provided manna because they didn't have the opportunity to store. We've been told for 150 years to store. We do not have that excuse. So we do not get the blessing of manna unless you've done your part. If you've done your part and you run out of food, I truly believe the Lord will stretch that food to make it last. If you have not done your part, you will be hungry. So tonight's class is going to be about learning how to preserve what we get and adding to our food storage. All right, so just a tidbit on the history of canning because I thought it was interesting. In 1795, Napoleon Bonaparte offered 12,000 francs for a method of providing food for his army because they were always on the move and they needed stuff that could stay not going bad because they were getting sick because they were eating bad food. So 15 years later, a chef developed the method of heating food in airtight glass jars, much like today. In fact, canning has not changed hardly at all from when it was started in 1810. Just another little tidbit, the guy who figured out how to can also invented beef bouillon, or bouillon, the bouillon food. I know, a little tidbit. What did I tell you? Okay, so canned foods, how healthy are they? One of the things that I hear from a lot of people is with canning and dehydrating, well, I'm just going to eat fresh or frozen because it's much healthier than if I can. And I'm here to tell you that is not the fact. First of all, most of the stuff you're getting fresh is not really all that fresh unless you're picking it out of your garden. It probably has less nutrients than the stuff that we have canned and dehydrated for you today. So, number one, when you can, canning retains all the minerals in your fruits or vegetables that you're canning. The only thing that it loses is A and C, and that's done right after it first cans. After that, it levels off, and all the other vitamins retain their levels. In some foods, it actually multiplies or enhances the vitamins and minerals that are in there. In pumpkin, and I can't remember, it has some weird thing that it has in it, but when you eat it like raw, it's only like 150 milligrams or whatever, and when you can it, it goes up to 600. So sometimes it's even better and healthier for you if you can. The fresher the food that you preserve, the healthier it will be. Obviously, the fresher, the faster you get it canned or dehydrated, fresh from the vine, then the more nutrients it's going to have in it to begin with. So, this is a big thing. That's why it's bold and red. Properly processed bottled and sealed foods will not cause botulism or get moldy. And we're going to find in another slide that they also will not go bad. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So how long will canned food store? Okay, I actually have some little spice things that look like this that I got from my mom that I'm still using. My sister has a lot of them. I only have a couple. I mostly use mine for decoration now, but you will be surprised at how long things go. In fact, they found a boat or a submarine or something that was sunk in the ocean. And it had been down there for 100 years. And they found bottled food in it and brought it up and tested it, and it was still perfectly fine and healthy to eat. And you still got nutrients from it after 100 years. Okay, so, but food does taste better if eaten within 2 years. Why? Because it's going to be fresher. But I will tell you, I made a dump cake tonight. Actually, my recipe says old bottle of fruit cake. And I took some cans of peaches and pears that were from 2007. And I opened them up and opened a fresh one, and I could not tell the difference in them. So keep in mind, do not throw things away because of the expiration dates. Commercially canned, the best quality is between 2 and 5 years. But as long as it's not leaking or bulging, it's safe to eat. Okay? In fact, one of my cans of peaches or pears that I pulled off the shelf had been leaking, so that just went in the trash. All right, high acid foods like tomatoes only store for about 1 to 2 years if they're in cans. If you bottle them, they will store for a very long time. This is from, I think, 02. These tomatoes, and they're still perfectly fine. I just opened some recently. They don't look quite as pretty as they did when I first got them, but they're still really good. Okay, commercially canned and properly processed home canned foods will store indefinitely if the seal is not broken. So they're not going to kill you, but this is my favorite one, AKA, they're safe to eat, not necessarily great to eat. All right? So you do want to rotate your stuff because it does diminish the taste. And if you're not storing it very well, like if you're storing it in heat, it's going to diminish it a lot faster. If you're keeping it fairly cool and in the dark, especially things that are canned that the light can get to, they will store for a very, very long time, and you will be very, very happy to have them. Okay, store in a cool, dark place. All right, so canning, we're going to start with the cool tools. All right, it's my favorite part of all the things, the cool tools, and I just got a new one. See my new sun oven over there? That's my newest cool tool. That just came in the mail last week, and I've already used it. Made baked beans in it on Saturday. All right, so cool tools. So first we're going to start with the gadgets. I call these the gadgets. Okay, these are little things that will make your life so easy. Those of you that can't already know this, but if you haven't, and you don't have these, you're going to definitely want them. And you can get a whole package of them for like $10. They come in a little set. So this is a jar funnel. And you just put it in the top of your jar, so when you're filling it, it doesn't go all over. It just makes it a lot easier for cleanup because you have to clean your rims before you seal. So I have a couple of these. I use them for a lot more than just canning, actually, because they come in handy for other things too. This is called a jar lifter, and I'll demonstrate for you. It has a little magnet in it. So when you are heating up your lids in your hot water before you put them on, this just lifts them up. This actually is 2 of them. It lifts them up, and so you can put them on without burning your fingers. Now, one thing I learned today is I have also Tattler lids, which are reusable lids, and we're going to talk about them in a minute. But what I found with those, the lid lifters do not work with plastic. So I burned my fingers. So I really like the metal ones. Anyway, jar lifter. Also, this is another great tool. When you have your stuff hot, your jars are hot, when they're all done and you need to take them out, before I had one of these, you try to use like a hot pad, and they get all wet and hot and burn you anyway, and not that efficient, and things slip out of your hand and fall. So these, they have rubber on them. Oh, look, I need a new one. Okay, time for a new one. They have rubber on them. And you just pick them up out of your jar, and they don't break, and they don't burn your fingers, and they don't get anything wet. So they're very, very handy to come into. Those are my favorite ones. What? Someone ask something? Okay, another thing you're going to want is some kind of plastic or wooden tool to be able to get the air out of your jars before you, any little air bubbles out before you seal them up. So I just use this. But you can use whatever you want, as long as you don't want to use metal because it can break your, it can crack your jars. Okay, those are some of the cool, oh, look, I even have little things here. This is one for when I don't bring the cool tools with me. And then also, in both of these kind of canners, there's two different ones. In this kind of canner, you have these handy dandy little wraps that you can set up here when you're filling them and bring them up, so whatever. And you need to have some kind of wrap in your canners because if your cans sit right on the bottom, they will crack. They will crack. Oh, I just changed that one. So this one, we'll get to it eventually.
So what's going to crack?
Your jars will crack if you set them right on the bottom. So you have to have something in. In my pressure canner, I actually have two, what are these, trays. One that goes in the bottom, because I can double stack in here. So one goes in the bottom, then one goes in between the two sets of jars so that they will be level. Okay. So, great. All right. So the next thing you have as part of your cool tools is jars and lids. And jars come in half pints and pints and quarts. They also come in half gallons, but in doing some research this week, they do not recommend canning things in half-gallon jars because they don't get heated all the way through because there's so much product in it. And so they're just not recommended for canning and for long-term storage. But they're really good for coins. Okay, lids and rings. So let's talk a little bit about that. Normally, you've probably seen these kind. They have little rubber gaskets in them. You heat them up, they get soft. You put them on the top. You put the ring on, and you tighten it down when you can. There also are, oh, darn. Now what did I do? I'm not having luck. Okay. Let's go back to the slideshow. All right. All right. So those are the three sides. Those are rings. There's you also want to have on hand extra lids, in case you can't get them, or like today, I almost didn't have enough of the small ones. There also is the tapper ones, which are right here. I actually bought a case of them. They come in the wide mouth and the regular, and they're great because they're reusable. You can use them over and over and over and over again. Now, the problem with these, after talking to the extension service, is that they're finding that they don't work very well in pressure canning. That it gets so hot and there's so much pressure that they'll fail after a few times and your stuff just won't seal right. So they are recommended for water bath canning, but not so much for pressure canning. So just so you know that. And then also, you can get these cool little plastic lids. So like once you open your, like a jar or something, and you don't want to keep using this, then you can just use a plastic one and it seals it up. It works really good for freezer jam too. Okay. Also, a must, a good canning book. You can pick one up at Walmart for $5. They're really cheap, but you will always, when I can, go back and refresh my memory to make sure that I have the canning times right for doing different things. Meats are really easy because they're always the same time and they're always the same pressure. But canned fruits and vegetables, they're a little bit different with each one. Yeah.
Fish has a different time.
Yes,
than
but
meat.
I don't can fish because I don't like it and it stinks your outhouse up. So I don't have to worry about that.
I know, but some people
If
do.
you can fish, then you'll need to, then it's a different time than the rest. So thank you for bringing that up. When you get a canning book, I made the mistake of going online and getting a bunch of different canning books because I thought that would be really cool, not looking at the copyright dates on them. And you want to get canning books that are like from the last 10 years because they have made advances and changes in processing times, and they have found that the way that they used to do it didn't really work that well, so they've changed the times a little bit. And some of my books were older than that, and they had misinformation in them. So you want to make sure you get something that is current. All right, choosing the right canner. There are several ways that you can can, so we're going to talk a little bit about the different kinds of canners. The first one we're going to talk about is a steam canner. How many of you have steam canners or have used them? Okay, not very many of you. Okay, that's kind of surprising. When I was like a teenager, I remember these like being a huge thing. It was like the new canning thing. Now no one uses them. But what they have found is because the food is not actually submerged in water like it is with the water bath canner, it does not process your food evenly like it does in a water bath canner. And so you can still have botulism in there. And so they only recommend it if you're going to do it. There's actually some guidelines on the Utah State University Extension website. They have these guidelines, and I will try to get them in the handout for you, that these step-by-step things to do if you're going to steam can. But they only recommend it for jams, jellies, and fruit, and not tomatoes or anything else. Yeah.
They're great for preheating your jars.
They're great for preheating your jars.
Much faster and
And they're
cleaner.
really big, like it gives you a really big container like this size to mix things in. Linda, Jed, and I made our salsa in there one time because we were making so much of it that it didn't fit in any of our bowls. Yeah?
So preheating jars makes the canning process faster.
No. Preheating jars, you only have to preheat jars if you're just putting something in and it's hot. And the reason that is because it can crack your jar if it's a cold jar and you're putting something hot. You can also keep them hot in your dishwasher. You can, I just today, because when I did the apple stuff, I had to have hot jars. I just put my jars in here with the water down there, and so it kept them warm, and then I took them out, filled them, and then put them back in. So I just sort of had this, take out empty, put in a full one. So, okay, so that's steam canning. So they are not recommended by the National Center for Home Food Preservation. They don't even recommend them at all as to do canning in. Okay, water bath canning is for high acid foods only, and they would be things like fruits and pickles and preserves and tomatoes. Now, most of you probably are not used to actually processing pickles because you don't think that that's a necessary thing to do. The extension offices are saying that you really do need to process your pickles, but you can do it at a really low temperature so it doesn't affect your pickle, which is a little bit trickier to do, but you can do it. You can do tomatoes in them in water bath canners. However, unless you're growing your own tomatoes that are high acid, then you have to add either lemon juice or vinegar or citric acid to them, which can change the taste of what you're doing. And because I didn't want the taste changed in mine, when I did mine, I did it in my pressure canner. That way I didn't have to add vinegar or anything to it. Now I have not experimented, maybe you have. Experimented enough. I mean, some of the salsa recipes have you putting 1.5 cups of vinegar for like 8 pints or 8 quarts. That is a lot of vinegar. That is going to change the whole taste of your salsa. So to me it was worth it to do it in here. All right. You also can get these cute little baskets if there's just one of you. And this actually will just fit down in a regular pot. And as long as the water goes 1 inch over your jar when it's in there, you can process it like that. And you can do 2 or 3 or 1 or whatever you want to do at a time. And there's even, I just got a new book on, I forgot to bring on my canning books. Oh well. I just got one on small batch canning. There's whole books on there on small batch canning, so you can just do a few at a time.
The water bath canner you got there, if you're using quarts, you're not going to get an inch and a half of water
Yeah.
at the top of it.
I did.
You're very lucky. It's
pretty
better.
good.
It's better to put them in
To do it
that.
in here.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm making sure. It's this far down. And I
Yeah.
had my water up to the top, so
Yeah.
it was spitting all over my room.
It's very spitting out.
Yeah, it was.
It's better to use your pressure
use this.
canner,
Okay.
just not put the
So,
lid on.
Pressure canning, which is my favorite way to can. It's not really a lot faster than doing this because it takes a long time for it to come up to heat and to do all that. But I know that it's going to be safe when it's done, and it's really the only way you can do meats and vegetables. So it is low acid foods, which are vegetables, meats, beans, dips, foods, and sauces. Anything that has vegetables in it has to be pressure canned.
Work in the house, I have to do
Okay.
outside.
So just think of that. Like
That's
if you're
American,
making a
yeah.
stew, and interestingly enough, when you're doing pressure canning, it's whatever say you're doing a soup that has a bunch of different things in it, whatever takes the longest amount of time to cook, that's how long you pressure it for. So it's not so hard to figure out once you start doing it. When you first start, you really just want to use recipes that are already out there because it will, that way you're sure that you're doing it. You also don't want to use pressure canners on glass stove tops because it can crack them, and on camp stoves. And I know a lot of people do use these on camp stoves. If you have a really powerful camp stove, it can actually warp your canner. And these are like $250. You do not want to do that. When I talked to the lady at the Utah Extension Office, she said that they had 3 people that had warped their canners last year using a camp stove. So if you're going to use a camp stove, don't crank it up. Do it low. All right? Okay, one other thing. If you're going to be buying pressure canners, going back so you can't sneak ahead. Okay. If you're going to be buying a pressure canner, make sure you measure on your stove top. A lot of us have microwaves or cabinets above our stoves, and the taller one, the one that does 2, I forgot the number for it, but it does 2 layers of quartz. It's pretty high, and it doesn't fit on a lot of people's stoves. So when you are looking to buy one of these, they actually will have the measurements online of how tall they are. You just need to measure, you know, has this part too, you have to measure. So you're going to be measuring from here to here, make sure it's going to fit on your stove. Yeah.
That one there won't fit on mine.
See?
I use it outside. I got a
Don't
good
warp
stove.
it.
But I have a different canner that I use in my stove
Inside.
in-house.
Okay. So, pressure cookers versus canners. A lot of people think you can use a pressure cooker, pressure canning. And they're not the same. In fact, I just saw a whole blog this week about all these people that are using their pressure canners or pressure cookers to can. Really bad idea. So, the reason why is that pressure cookers do not get to as high a temperature as pressure canners. And so your food doesn't get as hot, it doesn't kill the botulism that's in there. So you should not use it for pressure canning, only pressure cooking. So this is pressure canner. Okay, we're going to talk, there's differences in pressure canners. So there's 2 main differences in them. And when you look at them, you're going to know what the differences are because I'm going to teach you right now. I actually bought one that I didn't know was the best kind to buy. It was the same thing with my dehydrator. When I got my dehydrator, I didn't know that it was the best one. It just turned out to be that way. So I lucked out. But I'm telling you which one's the best ones, and I'm going to tell you why. The other kind are cheaper, but they're not as easy to use. So, the differences. There is mine, notice, no gasket, okay? It's going to go metal on metal. This will last for your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, okay? It's built to last, and they're a really good company. They stand behind their products. The other kinds have rubber gaskets in them. Well, what happens with rubber gaskets? They get old and cracked, and then they don't hold the pressure in, and your stuff doesn't get to the right pressure in them. Another problem with them is the one that has the rubber in it is a dial pressure canner. Most of them, this is how they are. And so they have only a dial on them. Now, if you see mine, which you're going to see in just a second, so I'm showing you in real life here. Mine has a dial, and it has a weight. And so up here, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but we can add 15 pounds pressure. And so what this does is when it starts working, this is going to go up to 15, and this releases pressure to keep it at 15, so I don't have to do anything. If you have this kind, you have to be watching and playing with your heat to make sure that it stays at your 13 pounds pressure. And if it goes below that, you have to start your time all over again. So you can see how that's not so fun because you have to spend your time in the kitchen. Me, I put mine on, I go in the family room, it rattles 1 to 4 times a minute. As long as I can hear it rattling, I know that my pressure is perfectly fine, and I can work on my PowerPoint or do whatever I need to be doing instead of having to sit there and watch it. Yeah.
That particular one there has the same thing. That's a weight, 15-pound weight sitting there.
That's
Will
it.
rock
Okay.
the same.
So I gotta get a different picture.
But what the new ones they're selling, you go to Walmart, they don't have the gauge. They just have the
They
weight.
just have to wait. Oh.
And as you bring it up, once you get it to weight, temperature, And pressure, you don't want that to change, go up or down.
Right.
Because if it
But
starts
then
going
it
up
should
and
keep her
down,
from doing that.
yes, but if you don't know when you're getting to that, and you've got the fire up to get the water and the steam up, and that comes on, you've got to turn it down.
Right.
And so without a gauge to guide you, to bring it down,
It's harder.
you
See,
could
I
get in
would not
trouble.
use I don't use my gauge for that. I just watch it because mine always stays at 15. It
Yes.
always stays at 15 pounds.
Yes.
And I just turn it down and make sure it still jiggles.
But as it gets up to 15 pounds, you're turning
Oh,
the
no, I
flame,
don't do that.
don't you?
No.
I do, and you
See?
can bring that up to
You
right
don't
in
have to do
and
that.
drop
You
it
just
there.
wait till it jiggles, then you know it's there.
But
What brand is yours?
This is an All-American.
it's the best.
Okay, so we already talked about the weighted gauge one. So the weighted gauge one is when it gets up to 15 pounds pressure, it's going to jiggle, and you don't want it to jiggle the whole time because what happens when it jiggles is it's releasing pressure. And the more pressure it releases, the more water is getting evaporated out of your canner, and you can make your canner go dry. So that's why you want to keep it, so it just jiggles 1 to 4 times. Mine usually jiggles 3 to 4 times. Yeah.
You know the lady, your neighbor that
Yes.
taught the canning lesson out here, that really does the end of the canning? I asked her, and she said, the one thing you want to do on the bottom that you got in that you set your jars on, stick a set of those rings around there to hold it up that much higher, because you can run them dry. I've
Yeah,
never run
that
them,
says it, but my tray doesn't sit on the ground.
huh?
It has a lip on it.
Yeah, that much, but you put that other and it's that much. And I've had mine
But it
boil,
will still run dry.
huh?
It will still run dry,
Yeah?
even if it's up higher.
But he's saying, what he's saying.
Yes,
I've
but
never
your
had that
chances,
run dry.
I've had mine run down to that
Damage your product.
level.
Huh?
You won't
I've had-
damage the jar.
I've had mine run down to that,
Yeah, but
and there was
my
the
jar's
water
not sitting
underneath
on the
it.
ground.
Huh?
My jar's a half an inch off the bottom of my canner.
If you're-
So whether it's an inch or a half an inch, it still would do the same
Then
thing.
you got nothing to worry about, you got a half inch.
Okay.
I've got an American like that,
Okay.
but I got about an eighth of an inch or a quarter.
Okay, all right, we're gonna move on. All right, so, wait a minute, we're gonna do that. Okay, now, this is an important thing you need to know. Where you live, you need to know the altitude where you live. And, because depending on where your altitude is, if you're water bath canning, it's gonna change how long you can, and if you're pressure canning, it's gonna change the weight that you can at, or the pressure that you can at. Now, there is online, and in your handout that I'm gonna email out to you, you can go to this and you can actually put in your address, and it will tell you the exact altitude that you live at. I live at 2,443 feet, I just found out this week. So, you'll know the altitude you live at. And for pressure canners, if you're over 1,000 feet, you do a 15 pounds pressure. So, it's really easy.
If you're below your, what is it?
If you're below 1,000 feet, it's 10 pounds pressure. See, like you guys. That would be you. All right. So, let's get started canning. We are never going to get through this class. Yeah.
A friend of mine does all her canning in the oven, and I
No,
don't know what I
do not can in the oven. Okay, bad. Bad, don't do that. Okay, okay, no more comments unless I say something wrong, because otherwise we're not gonna get through. All right, so keeping it clean. This goes through whether you're doing dehydrating or canning or whatever. You just wanna keep your kitchen, your area clean, and you wanna wash your hands, which is a little hard to do when you're doing a lot of, you should have seen my kitchen this week. All right. So gather your supplies, have them all around, so you don't have to, like me yesterday, go out to the garage and get something, and then go over here and get something. It's just annoying to do that. So make sure you have everything that you need all there. You want to inspect your jars and rings. Jars, obviously, you can use your jars and your rings over and over again. So when you are, you want to run your finger around the top, because that's how you tell what, if there's any cracks or nicks, right? And if there's cracks or nicks, that means your lid is not going to seal, make a tight seal. You also don't want to use these if they're rusty. I just threw it out today because I tried to screw it on. I'm like, why isn't it screwing? Oh, it's rusty. I should have my glasses on when I'm looking. All right. So, inspect them, look at them to see if there's any cracks in the side, feel around the top, and then get rid of the rusty stuff. You want to prepare your jars and lids, so you wash your jars and your rings, you know, if they're clean. Now, if you're pressure canning, you don't even have to wash them. I mean, you want them to be clean, but they don't have to be sterilized.
They just have to be clean. Keep them hot if you're hot pack canning. We already talked about that. You can do it in the dishwasher, you can do it in a pot, and you want to heat your lids. That doesn't mean boiling them, it means simmering them. So just under boil, you want to do that for about 10 minutes before you use them. Okay, so we're going to talk freezer canning, freezer jam, which I know is not really canning, but I love freezer jam, so we're starting with that. Freezer jam has to be if you are just getting started in canning, do freezer jam because it is so easy, it is so fast, and it is so delicious that you'll never go back to regular jam again. There is several different kinds of freezer jam stuff now. I got these from Winco yesterday. So this one, you can actually make it with no sugar. So the way that their pectin works, this was actually the cheapest. So I love that. So you can do it no sugar or low sugar or regular sugar, whatever you want to do. This is a no sugar one also, and this one is a low sugar one. And then they have them that are just regular. But I will tell you that the recipes for regular, it's 4 cups of fruit and 4 cups of sugar. It's a lot of sugar. So I chose to do a recipe that was 4 cups of fruit and 1.5 cups of sugar, and it was like the perfect sweetness for me. Okay, so you need to get pectin, you need to have those around, and your jars and your fruit. And just so you know, so you don't get confused, when you are doing freezer jam, it'll tell you like 4 cups of fruit or 4 quarts of fruit or whatever it says. That's squished fruit, not fruit like this. Okay, so you're going to not measure it here, you're going to measure it after you squish it up. And you can squish it, a potato masher works really, really good. I, however, could not find my potato masher yesterday. I think my grandson did something with it. And so I just actually squished it up with my fingers and it worked just as well and pretty much just as fast as what I remember doing with that. The idea is you just don't want big chunks, you want it to be just kind of a pulpy, but you don't want to have it be like puree. So you don't want to use your like blender or your food processor, just do the hands or do the potato masher. Okay, then there's actually 2 different ways of doing this. So one way, they put the sugar and the pectin in water and mix it up, and the other way you put the sugar in with the fruit and the pectin in the water. So the one I did had them both in the water. I liked that better. So I just put it in, you bring it to a boil, you simmer it, you cook it for 2 minutes, and then you pour your already squished up fruit in and mix it for 3 minutes. So you just mix it up so that everything's all dissolved. Oh, that was putting it together. And then you put it in jars. Now, one of them, this one, it only had to sit on my counter for 25 minutes, and then I could put it in the fridge or the freezer. The other one has to sit out for 24 hours. So I tend to forget things after 24 hours. So I like the one that was only 25 minutes. And it'll stay for 3 weeks in your fridge or a year in your freezer. And you're going to get to try some tonight. It is so, strawberry freezer jam is like my absolute favorite. It's the only jam that my niece will eat. Because she got raised on it and now she can't eat anything else. So, we're going to talk about preparing your canners. If you're doing pressure canning, you're going to put 2 inches of water down here. It's about 2 quarts of water. And that will, after you put your jars in, it'll be the right amount. Your jar, the water, is going to come about halfway on your jars when they're in there. So if you put too much in, you can take some out. They don't have to be covered. In a water bath canner, the water has to go over your jars. An inch to 2 inches over your jars. And so sometimes you have to bring the water to get your water heated up, like I did today with my hot pack. If you're cold packing, you don't have to, you can just use cold water. So that was heating the water up. Look, wasn't that a great picture? It's all steamy. All right. Then if you're doing fruit, because that's the first thing we're talking about, because we're talking about water bath canners right now. So fruit, you prepare your food. You get your fruit, you wash it. If you're doing peaches or tomato, we're not doing tomatoes in here. If you're doing peaches or apricots, the fuzzy kind of fruit, and you've never done this is like the coolest thing ever, where you put it in hot water for like 30 seconds, and then you put it in cold water, and the skin just pops off. You don't have to peel it. That's why I never can pears, because you can't do that. Apples I do because I have an apple peeler core slicer. We're going to talk about those in a minute. Then you're going to cut it up into the size that you want. When you're canning, You want to make sure that your fruit is pretty much the same size, because if you have stuff that's really little and stuff that's big, the bigger stuff's not gonna process as well as the smaller stuff. Okay, now, how many of you know what this is? Yes. Okay. Oh, you know someone who do this. You're gonna love me with that. Okay. Can you see me over here? Wait, let me move over. Oh, you can do this. All right, here we go. Okay, if you've never seen one of these before, first of all, they're really cheap. They're like 20 bucks. And this one, they have two kinds. They have one that clips onto either a table or a counter or a breadboard. Or you can buy one of these little handy-dandy things and then you can just do it on here and it'll just sit on your counter or whatever. And then, or they have a kind that has a pressure thing on it, but it has to be on a flat surface. So my counters at home have dimples in them, so it doesn't work. But I discovered this cool trick today, that I can just lock it right onto my cookie sheet. And the cool thing about that is, you're going to see, if you've never done this before, that it makes these cool little things, and it does it so fast. I did 10 apples for the apple stuff in 5 minutes today, this morning. So all you do is, there's a little prong thing that sticks out, you just stick the apple on it, and it doesn't matter if it's front or back, but it seems to me if you do it on the back part first, it seems like it peels a little bit better. Now, this has a little peeler here, and this has a core, and it's going to slice right around this. So it does everything at once. It's the coolest thing. Now watch. There's a little lever that I can push and I can just move it up. And then I just do this. Okay, is that not the coolest thing ever? It is such a simple tool. And my kids who hate, you know how little kids are, they make you peel the apples? They would fight over the apple peels. Okay? We called it apple string, and they thought it was the coolest thing, and they would literally fight over it because they thought it was so fun, but they would never eat apples, so it's fun. And then you can just do that, and I have no peel left. Now to do, wherever it is, the apples, I just took a knife and just went down the side, and I, in 5 seconds, had little chopped up apples. Isn't that so fun? I know you all are going to want one of these. Okay. This is why I will do apple stuff and not pears, because I can do this. And it keeps everything all self-contained. It doesn't make a mess. Or the way that I used to do it, I did it on my breadboard and it would go on the floor and I tried to get it in the trash can, it would miss, and it would get sticky. And this is like the coolest thing ever. Okay, so there's that, sorry. That's my little plug for that. All right, so canning tomatoes. We already talked about this, so I'm just going to briefly do it. If you have tomatoes, they're not necessarily, especially ones you buy, are low acid, not high acid. So if you're going to just do tomatoes, you need to add lemon juice. What's interesting to me is if you're adding lemon juice, you need a whole lot less lemon juice than you need vinegar. It's like 4 times as much vinegar as lemon juice. If you're doing salsa or any of that, I just pressure can it, because then I don't have to add that stuff to it. And that was the way that I got around it. You have to decide what you want to do. All right, so preparing vegetables, same idea. You're going to wash them, you're going to trim them, cut them up if you're going to. They recommend putting salt in your vegetables and actually in meat. And with fruit, they recommend doing sugar. Now, I'm going to tell you this, because I just learned it, that you do not have to add salt or sugar to any of your fruits or vegetables when you process them. You do that for one reason: the taste and the look and the texture. And doing it with just a slight amount of sugar or sweetness, especially fruit, keeps it more firm and better tasting and better looking than if you don't put it in there. So if you don't care what it looks like, then just can it with water. But if you do care, then put some sugar. You can do a simple sugar with not very much sugar in it, but anyway, vegetables, obviously, you're not going to put sugar in it. That would taste weird. Okay, you're going to fill up your jars, and I did these 2 pictures. When I first was looking at this, I'm like, why did I put these pictures in here backwards? Because, he's cooking. But the reason I did it is you can either raw pack or you can cook pack, hot pack. So cold pack or hot pack when you're doing this kind of stuff. And frankly, I thought until yesterday and today that doing the raw pack method would be so much faster. So I'm going to tell you that that is not the truth. And the reason that is because the fruits and vegetables don't pack in there as easy when they're raw because they're stiffer. So you can't get as much in there as if you cook them. And today when I did the apple, we'll just use this one. When I did the apple pie filling, I started doing it raw pack because I had, the recipe I had, that's how they did it. So I cooked the syrup separate and then went to pour it in. So what happened with my syrup? It just sat on the top because it was so thick that it wasn't going down through the apples. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I had to dump all the apples out of my jars and into the syrup and then do it. So I'm here to tell you that really you save a lot of time and effort, and it's a lot easier if you just cook them ahead of time and don't raw pack fruits and vegetables. Well, some of them. Peaches are easy to do, you know, you can stick them in your blend. Stuff like this, I would cook them first. I think it would be easier. The other thing when you're doing vegetables, most vegetables that you cook, that you don't eat raw, although green beans you could eat raw, if you don't blanch them, this is called blanching. When you get them hot, you put them in hot water for like 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the vegetable, and then you put it into the cold water. Now the reason you do that is because it helps it hold its color. You know when you go to a restaurant, especially higher end restaurants, and they bring you broccoli in this beautiful, vibrant, bright green color, it's because they blanch all their vegetables so that they keep those nice, vibrant colors. So if you don't want your green beans to get like you buy them at the store, you know when you buy canned green beans and they're that yucky green, olive green color, it's because they don't blanch them first. So at home, you can blanch them and then they'll be nice, pretty green. Okay, preparing meat. Yay, meat! Okay. My favorite way to do meat is cold packing.
Cold packing?
Cold packing meat. So, whether you're cold packing or hot packing, this part is the same. You're going to trim the meat to get as much fat off of it as you can, and you're going to cut it into bite-sized pieces. Okay, you don't have to do that, but that's how I do mine, because that's how I'm going to use it in whatever I'm putting it in. I'm not going to use, I don't want a whole chicken breast. Okay, so I cut it up into bite-sized pieces. With hot meats, you do that other part first, and then you brown it, and then you put it in the jar, and you have to put some kind of juice in with it, otherwise it gets dry. We'll talk about that in a minute. The only thing that I hot pack, out of everything that I hot pack, is hamburger. And the reason that is if you don't hot pack it, if you don't cook it first, it turns into a meatloaf. So if you want meatloaf, don't hot pack it first. Just pack it in there. All right? Okay, so what kinds of meats can you can? Now I know most of you can't see these up here, so these are pictures of not all my stuff, but pretty much what my stuff looks like. So this is beef stew. This is hamburger. This is chicken and turkey. I don't remember which is which. That might be turkey now. You can tell in a picture. Okay. This is sausage. Okay, Italian sausage. My husband loves sausage and everything. So we've now done Italian sausage. Tomorrow I'm getting my pollo kielbasa, is that how you say it? I'm getting that. That's getting canned. And I've done breakfast sausage. So I've done all different kinds of sausages now. This is ham. Now, isn't that pretty? My ham did not look like that. My ham looks like this. It's really dark. And I'm not sure why, but it tastes just really good like ham. This was Daikon ham, and it was smoked probably. This isn't probably smoked, and that's probably what the difference is. The smoked ham is going to give you more of a brown color when you can it. But it still tastes really good. Okay. This is bacon. All right, I have not done bacon like that yet. That's why I picked that picture. I did bacon like, I have two ways. Where's the other one? Here it is. Okay, so I chose to cut my bacon up into little pieces because I thought it would be easier. Because I'm just going to add it to things, so I didn't care if it was big. So this one was bacon that I cooked first, and this is bacon that I just put in raw, and then I both just processed them. All right, now, do you notice how this one, the fat's all mixed in, and this one, the fat's all on the top? I have no idea why they did it that way, but they did. But the bacon, if you look at them, it looks pretty much the same. Now, the thing about canning bacon like this is it's not gonna ever really brown once you take it out. It'll cook, but it's not gonna be really brown. Well, it's already cooked, because it's been cooked for an hour, well, an hour and 15 minutes. But,
It'll never get.
it'll never get crisp. If you want it to get crisp, there are videos on the internet where you can do this, where you take the bacon strips, you can put them on parchment paper. There's two ways you can do it. You can cook it first, or you can just put it on parchment paper. If I'm going to do that, I think I would rather cook it first, because you can get a lot more when it's already partially cooked, because, you know, it takes up less space. You put it on parchment paper, you fold the parchment paper over, you roll it up and stick it in the jar and can it. It's really easy to do. But I can get a lot less bacon. I can get as much bacon in a pint as they can get in a quart. So I'd rather do it this way. I don't really care if it's in pretty strips. And you can do hot dogs. I've done Costco dogs. In fact, I think I brought mine. Did I bring them? I don't see them. Maybe I didn't bring them. I've done Costco dogs, and Costco now has they're Costco dogs, but in regular size, so they fit in your jars a little bit better. But the big ones, you just cut them in half, and I can put, I think, 5 or 6 pieces in a wide mouth jar. And you just put them in and process them. I love beans and franks. It is a comfort food to me, so it is part of my food storage. You cannot, however, do regular hot dogs, because, have you ever overcooked a hot dog? You know how it like explodes? So imagine doing it in a canner for an hour and 15 minutes. Okay? It's going to be pulverized. Yeah.
All of your meats an hour and 15 minutes.
All meats in pints are an hour and 15 minutes, so 75 minutes, and in a quart, it's 90 minutes. Okay? It's the same for every meat. And for me, it's 15 pounds pressure. For you, it would be 10 pounds pressure, except for fish. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, so I have done all these other things too. My family are big Mexican eaters, so I have carne asada bottled. I have Mexican chicken sauce that's done. I have, I've done, we haven't done that part yet. Okay, let me see what else. I think that's all. Every now and then, okay, so anyway, beans. Now I just did beans. He does beans a little bit different than what I have been taught, and the reason I did them the way that I did them is because the extension offices all say not to do what he does. And so I did do some beans, and I forgot to mark the top, so now I can't even tell which ones are the ones I did that way and which ones I didn't. But what he does is he uses a quart-sized jar, he puts 1 cup of dry beans in it, fills up the rest with water, and processes it for 90 minutes.
And they tell you not to do
And they tell you not to do that. And I can't tell you why. Like, I did some research, and I really can't figure out why they have a problem with it, but they do. What they want you to do is, which is what I did, was soak them. And I just did a quick soak, so you just bring them to a boil for 3 to 5 minutes. I just did mine for 5 because I actually forgot about them. And then turn the heat off and let them sit for an hour. So now they've soaked up water. Then I rinsed them out and did it. Now, the way, one benefit of doing it the way I do it compared to him is there's a lot less gas in mine than in his, because I've now changed my water before I can them. So what I found with mine is, because I had never done it before, some of them, the barbecue bean one told me to soak my beans and fill it halfway up with beans, and then put barbecue sauce and onion and the other stuff in here, and then fill the rest of it with water. But these are a little bit too juicy for me. Now, she did say on her website that if they sit for 2 weeks that they will thicken up because they continue to pulp up. But you're going to get to taste these tonight because we brought them for you to taste. The beans are cooked, so it's not like, I don't know how they're going to soak up a lot more liquid in 2 weeks because they're already plumped up. So they're either going to get mushy or whatever. The other ones I did were a ranch bean, and these also were a little soupier. When I did the second batch of them, I filled them up all the way, and they were a lot less soupy. So if you're going to pre-soak your beans, you actually can pretty much fill it up and then add water, and it will just turn into regular beans and not have all the liquid in it. But ranch beans are kind of soupy anyway, so that might be why they were done this way. Anyway, is that like too much information for all of you? Yes. Sorry.
All this is in your books, right?
It will, no. But you will get a lot of that I mean, you're gonna learn the same way I did. You'll get my handout, you'll read through it. It has all the basic information of what to do. You're going to have some kind of basic canning book, like the Blue Ball canning book, that you can get specifics on how to do that. And then you're gonna do like I do. You're gonna get to the point where you go start surfing the net and putting in, canning bean recipes, and then you get blogs where people have done them, and like especially the blog that was for this, there was like 10 people that did them and then wrote in and said, well, I did it this way, and I did it this way, and I did this, so they all add a little bit. I used this kind of, like this had jalapenos in it, I didn't put jalapenos in it, I used chipotle seasoning instead, because I thought that would give me that smokier flavor better, but I should have put more in. So, that's when you're practicing and you see, oh yeah, I can do that. As long as you are processing them correctly, they will be good to eat. Okay? So, that's all. All right. So, beans are really easy, and I just told you the differences in them. The not soak method or the soak method. Yeah?
Your meats, when you raw packed them, were there certain kinds of meats where you added water before you processed?
Yeah, we're going to get to that in just a second. Okay? I know I kind of did this a little bit weird the way I did it this time. I might change it back to a little bit. Okay, so soups and sauces. Any kinds of soups and sauces you can can. Chili, soup. I thought I had some pasta fagioli to bring you tonight. Apparently my children have eaten all of it, so there was none left to bring you. But that's a great way to do, especially like for my family right now. There's only the two of us, and my mom has a really good lasagna recipe. And the secret is in the sauce, and her sauce, it takes like an hour to cook. And now it's like too much for the two of us when I make it. So last time I did a double batch of it, and I did two portions enough for a small lasagna, and froze them, and the rest I canned. And so now I have that lasagna sauce already done, and I can just dump it and use it for whatever. So I'm finding these great ways to be able to supplement my food and get the stuff that I really like without having to do all the work the night that I want to eat it.
When you do the soup,
Yes.
you cook the soup first, or you just put everything in the
It
jar?
depends on what I'm putting in it. Usually I cook mine first, I'll cook it most of the way first and then do that. Okay. All right, pack food. All right, so packing food into jars. So there's different ways that you do that. These are all cold packed ones, except for the upper right one, that's a jelly that they're doing, that they're putting in hot pack, but everything else is cold packed. When you are packing, you don't want to pack it so tight that nothing, you need to have some little bit of space in there. Not too much, just enough. I know, you don't know what that is. You're going to practice and you're going to know. I didn't know either. One of the things that bug me the most about canning is it tells you to tighten your lids, but not too tight. Well, what in the heck does that mean? So what I do is I tighten, I'm not that strong. I tighten it as tight as I can, and then I just back it off just a little bit. And then I figure I'm good. You'll know if you're not tightening them enough, because you'll get a lot of run over in your canners when you're canning. You'll get stuff bubbling out. All right, so you're adding liquid, cold versus hot. If you're hot pack canning, you're obviously adding hot liquid to it. You want to leave a head space. There's different head spaces you leave for different things. I almost always just bring it up to the rim, which is an inch. And so the bottom of my rim is where I fill my stuff up to. You take out the air bubbles. Boy, these are just weird order. Wipe the threads and the rim, put the lid on, tighten them. Wiping them. See, that's in the wrong order. How silly is that? Do not wipe it after you've already tightened the lid. It makes it a lot harder. Okay, then you're going to put them in the canner. We talked about this already. With the pressure canner, when you put the lid on, you'll notice that there is somewhere right there. See, there's an arrow. Mine, it just is a silver arrow when you get it, and I colored it black, so I don't have to see with glasses on. Okay, that's what colored it on my lid. So when you put it on, you're going to put it so when I twist it, because it has these little things right here that lock. So when I twist it, it will be in the right spot for my arrows to line up. And then, then when you tighten them up, when you tighten the lid on, you do opposites. So tighten them opposite, and you tighten these tight. Okay? pressure canning. So that's how you do that. This one, oh darn. Okay. All right, so processing. Processing has to do with your jar size, the food that's in it, and your altitude. If you're water bath canning, your processing time starts after your water starts boiling. If you're pressure canning, it's a little bit more complicated. So you're going to put the lid on, you're going to turn the heat on. I usually turn my heat on before my lid's on because while I'm filling, I'm heating the water up because it takes a while for the water to get hot. So what's going to happen is you don't have the weight on it at first. It's just no weight. And the steam is going to come out. When the steam's, you're going to hear the steam come out. That's usually how I can tell if the house is quiet anyway. You can hear the steam coming out. And the steam will come out, and the steam comes out for 10 minutes. And what that's doing is the steam is moving farther and farther up, and it's pushing all the air out of your can. And so once it comes out for 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, you'll have a straight stream of steam. Where in the beginning, it's like steam, no steam, steam, no steam. So a steady stream. Once it gets to a steady stream, then you put your pressure weight on. Put your weight on.
It's a weight.
And what did I tell you mine is?
15.
That's right. So I put it on 15. The steam's coming out. And I sort of quickly put it on there, kind of throw it on. And it goes on. Now, what's going to happen is the steam's going to start, the pressure's going to start building up in here. So it takes about 10 minutes for the pressure to build up to 15. When it gets to 15, my little thing's moving up and up and up and up. Till it gets to 15, this is going to rattle when it gets to 15. If it's on 10, it's going to rattle when it gets to 10. For me, it rattles at 15. So, rattle, 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 rattle. And then I go over and I turn mine down a little. I turn it down about halfway to about to medium on my stove. And now it's just going to rattle a little bit, up to 4 times a minute. Then you know the right amount of steam's coming out. Then, when I put this on, that's when I start the timing with this thing. No, I'm sorry.
No.
When it starts rattling, that's when I start the time. Did that wrong. Reverse. Okay. So, then I set my timer. And don't forget to set your timer, because if you forget to set your timer, which I did one time, and I was doing something for 70 minutes, and I had 75 minutes, I had no clue how long I cooked for, so I just had to start my 75 minutes. Because I had to make sure it went the right amount of time. So make sure you set your timer. All right. Well, look, there's pictures for all those. Okay. Set your timer. Whatever it says in your little blue book. Okay. So when the timer goes off, you do a little bit different things when the timer goes off. In a steam timer or a steam canner, you're going to just take the lid off, and you're going to take your sort of thing up and. And then you're going to use this to take your jars out. And I have a towel down on my counter. Either way, the towel's down so it doesn't sit right on the counter. With this one, when the timer goes off, you don't take this off. You just turn off the heat. And you wait till the steam goes down to 0. If you take this off in the beginning, it changes the timing because it includes that cool down time as part of your cooking. So don't take your weight off. And don't stick your canner in a cold water sink, because it can warp your camera, and it also changes your timing. So you just have to take this off. Oh, don't take that off. Turn it off and let it go down to 0. When it gets to 0, then you take it off. No steam will come out. Then you can open it and you can take your jars out. Okay. That takes a little while, by the way. It's like 30 to 45 minutes for it to cool down. All right. So let's skip here. Okay. Then you take your jars out. Oh, one little helpful hint that this nice lady taught me when she was teaching one of my classes: wear shoes when you're taking your cans out, because sometimes the bottles break and it can burn you. Okay, so isn't that a cool little hint? That's somebody who's been canning for a very long time to tell me that. All right, you're either going to set them on racks or on towels. You're going to let them sit for a while. After about 5 minutes, you're going to start hearing ping, ping, ping. That's your lids that are sucking in. Okay? And then you should get, my husband was counting the pings last night. It was so funny. 8, 9, it was so funny. Anyway, so a few hours later, when they cool down a little bit, then you can check the tops of your can tops of your jars and make sure that they're sealed. And there's 3 ways you can do that. You can push. If it's not sealed, it's going to go, have a little give to it. If they're sealed right, there's no give. You can hit it with a spoon and get a hollow sound. I don't do that. I just push. Or you can, I forgot what the lesson is. I don't know what the lesson is. You can do something else. Oh, you can just look.
The concave.
Yes, right. You can just look to see it's concave. All right, now the next day, you're going to take all of your rings off of your cans. And the reason why you do that is that, number 1, it gets sticky and sometimes you can't get them off. Number 2 is that this should be able to hold a seal on its own. And sometimes if you leave the rings on, it's harder to tell if your seal's been broken. And if your food's not good anymore. I had a jar of turkey that I pulled out today. I'm like, there's no juice left in that turkey. I'll bet you that there is a leak. And it had a rim on it, and it looked like it was still sealed. But it apparently wasn't, because it wouldn't have evaporated. So I washed them up so that they're not sticky. That one wasn't ever washed. So I didn't can that one. Someone can it for me. Okay. Make sure you write on the top what it is and the date. Because even though you think you will be able to tell what they are, you will not at some point. So you want to write what they are, and then you want to store them. You want to keep them out of the light and heat. And, oh, I forgot to bring this. Dang it. Have you seen these? I forgot what they're called. Oh, I can't look. Okay. They're called the jar box. That's what they're called. They're kind of expensive, and they only have them for quarts right now. But you can put them together, and it totally keeps your food from falling apart in an earthquake, unless it gets squished. Or you can keep them separate, and they're stackable, and you can do twice as much. So anyway, they're kind of cool. Then, if your boxes are falling apart, you can look into this. Okay, so a word to the wise. How many of you heard about canning butter, canning bread, canning cakes? Any of those things that you've gotten emails about? Because I've gotten emails about them over the years several times. All right, a lot of people are trying to can butter in jars, but it's not really canning. All it is putting butter in jars, or melting it and putting it in jars and putting it in the oven and having it be in the oven for like 25 minutes and then putting a lid on it and sealing it, and they think that that's canned. Does that sound canned to you? Was there any processing in there? No. It is not safe to do that way. And some of them specifically say use unsalted butter, which is even way, way worse and can cause botulism. I've also seen where they've done cakes and breads in jars. The problem with all of those, and I don't remember if I have this on here. No, I don't. The problem with all 3 of those is that it's the big 3 for botulism. It's in an airtight environment, it's a low acid food, and it is something else, and I always forget the third one. What? No oxygen. I said that one. No, moist. Yes, it's moist. That's it. Moist, no air, and
Botulism.
but low acid. There. Thank you. So those things all fall into that category. So even though there is some cases of people actually dying and getting very sick from the butter, not from so much from the cakes, but the potential is there, and it's not. I have a great aunt and great uncle that both died from botulism poisoning. So don't take the risk. Okay. There also is a thing about oiling eggs. Have you seen this? You can put mineral oil on your eggs and they can store for 4 to 6 months. Okay. So I'm going to tell you that you actually can do this. But there are very strict rules to go with it, and they will be in the handout. So read through your handout if you are interested in doing that, okay? They store at room temperature. And there's also wax cheese, which apparently also is something that you can do, but there are also very strict step-by-step things. And a lot of the things on the internet don't follow those. So I have in the handout the things that you are supposed to do correctly if you want to do those 2 things. Okay.
Can you use lard instead of mineral
No.
oil? I heard that's what people used to do in the olden days.
Yeah, and they died. They did. I've seen mineral oil and I've seen petroleum jelly. What it is you're sealing the outside of the eggs. And lard, because it goes rancid, that just wouldn't be a good thing to put in your eggs.
Okay, well, I've got concerns about mineral oil, because now we have that.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. So, I haven't done this. I just have powdered got the great, get a current canning book. The National Center for Home Food Preservation has an online free thing that you can print out. They have lots of videos, they have all kinds of stuff. And you can even download a canning book on there. YouTube, but you have to be very careful because you get a lot of people that do things not the correct way. And if you watch it and you haven't read my handout or come to my class, you might think, oh yeah, I can do it that way. But you really can't. So make sure you have a good canning book to back up what they're telling you, or the National Center for Home Food Preservation, or extension offices, which are a lot of colleges have extension offices that you can email. Whenever I have a question, I email this lady at the University of, Utah State University, and she answers my questions for me. So they're very, very good about that. If you have any questions, they will answer them for you. But YouTube is really good if it's right for step-by-step watching it. If you're a visual person like me, it's really nice to see someone actually do it. And there's not a lot of these around here, but some areas have gleaning clubs where actually they get together and go in after things have been picked and go in and pick the leftovers to be able to, process them, and usually it's free to do that. Okay, we're going to talk about steam juicers now. Come on down. Linda Bascom is going to come introduce you to the world of steam juicers, which I just learned about this week. Okay. This is what the inside of the steam juicer looks like.
This is a steam juicer.
Oh, wait, you need this. I can't even hear you when I'm standing next.
So those three things on the botulism are the ones to make sure it's not.
Right. If it's something that's moist, if it's a low acid, and if it's being stored airtight. See, normally cakes and breads are not stored airtight, so there's not a botulism problem. It's when you take the air out, when they put it in a jar and suck the air out, that there's a problem.
So the acid keeps away the botulism. Okay.
That's why, like tomatoes, there's a problem with that if you don't add the more extra acid in with doing this kind of canning. Oh, here, do you want this? You want me to do it?
You're going to do that.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Okay, the beginning part is you got the bottom part that you're going to put with water, and there's a level, there's a marking that tells you how much to put the water in. It's typically about this much water in there. Now, what trick that I learned is that you put a penny or two in the bottom, so when it gets down low, it will start jiggling, and you'll hear that, as we need to know you need to add more water.
Now, one thing I just learned, I read about that, is don't mix your coins. Don't put a penny and a dime because it turns the bottom.
No, use a penny. Use a penny. It's copper or whatever, but
Okay.
a penny's fine. Okay. The next portion of the juicer is this here, and it has some holes in this little cone type thing and stuff, and then it has a spigot here where the juice and stuff is going to come out. And that's going to set next. There has a little clamp on it, so you can clamp the hole so it doesn't come out. Then the next portion, this is where you're going to be putting the fruit, is just looks like a big strainer like that. And that will then, what you do is, I use this with grapes, Concord grapes, for making grape juice, or then making the juice, and then I'm making jelly afterwards with it. And the other thing I've done it with is pomegranates. I don't know how many of you had pomegranates and tried to peel them and get all those little seeds out and stuff. No, it is a pain. You don't want to do that way. And so all I did is cut my pomegranates in quarters and put them in there, brine everything in there and stuff. So that way you don't have to peel them all out and everything like that. And then you've got your lid and put that on there. Put this on the stove and just let it cook. What's going to happen is that the steam's going to come up there, and this juice is going to run through here, and it's going to collect in this container here.
Let me see pictures of this. If you're not bored with mom.
Huh?
Okay. So, washing your fruit first, or vegetables, or fruit, it's mostly fruit.
Yeah, good old that.
Okay, now,
Okay.
what she just told you about the pomegranate, you can do that with grapes too. See how this has all the stems and everything? You totally can put it in that way. However, if you're wanting to do like jelly and stuff like that afterwards, if you pick them off and do it like this lady did down here, it's just a lot easier to do because now you have a clean pulp when you're done. Does that make sense? So it just depends on what you're gonna do with your
I-
part 3 product.
Yeah, I took mine off the stems when I did it, just because I don't know if the stems were flavored or anything like that, so I mean, I didn't worry about all the little teeny tiny pieces, you know, the real small stems and stuff like, but the big stems, I took mine off and did that there.
Okay, did you see this one? Because I added this one later.
Okay.
Okay, I wanted to know how much juice does grapes make? Like, how much juice am I gonna get out of that? So I did some research. So if you have a lug, which is this, is 26 pounds, it will make 7 to 9 quarts of juice. If you have 3.5 pounds of fruit, makes about a quart. So it just gives you an idea of how much fruit you're using to make your juice. Okay, this is the part you were talking about.
Okay, then I just set this on the stove. Have the hose on it, and it just sits, I use the front one and it sits over there, and I use just a stool that comes up
I
there.
think I have a picture in there.
And so when, I let it cook for a while, and then you can start seeing, you can get a little bit of color through there, the juice is there. Then what you do is every so often, in fact, when I did my grape juice, I just put the jar there, and I use press this clamp, and the juice will just run out right into my jar
Right.
and stuff. And so, when I was doing directly to juice, I would put it just directly into the jar, and then you release the clamp, so you clamp the hose, and I can get the next jar and fill that up, and and do that way. When I was doing, when I was going to make jelly or with it, this is pomegranate jelly that I made with it. Now, one thing, let me warn you that by doing this way, you are thinning it a little bit with the steam with the water. So the first time I did the pomegranate jelly this way, I came at pomegranate syrup, which was still great for everything, but if you want jelly, then you have to use a little bit more pectin to make it set up thicker, because you are adding a little bit of,
Just cook it down a little bit.
you probably could cook it down, but I didn't. So, but just either way, so cook it down a little bit, or put just a little bit more texture gel, whatever, into that and picking it up, and so it will set up for you. Once I learned that, I thought, okay, no problem, and stuff like that then.
Okay, here's a couple hints. If you're doing Concord grapes, wear gloves. I've not done this, but the lady said she did it 3 times before she figured out she needed to wear gloves.
So that's fine, so yeah.
And that was the coins in the bottom. So here's the cooking. See, that fills up the middle with juice, and then you're going to let the juice out. And this is what she was talking about, putting it, you can put it right into a jar. Or, I love this, they're doing it on, they got 2 steamers going, and they're just feeding into a pitcher. So they just left it open so they don't have to watch it so carefully. Because don't let your juice get too high or it spills out. So how long does it take? That was another question I had, but I didn't ask you, so I just looked it up. It takes about 10 minutes to prep your fruit. It takes about 2 to 4 hours to make the juice. And you need to add water about every 45 to 60 minutes so it doesn't get dry.
And I'll tell you, it works wonders. If you ever tried to peel the grapes or seed them or things like that, you don't want to do that. So anything that has little things like that you can use with,
Yeah.
those are basically the 2 things
Any
that...
kind of berries, even vegetables you can use in there. So that was kind of interesting to me. I don't think
Yeah, I've never tried, as I said, those are the only 2 things I've tried to do with it and stuff.
Did you
like
make
that.
pumpkin juice?
But we made grape juice.
I don't know, probably.
Think what?
Pumpkin juice.
Sure
Okay,
do.
now according to what I read, the person, a couple of websites I was one time, they said the juice when it comes out is it's more concentrated than what you normally are used to drinking when you buy grape juice. So she mixes it 50-50 with water. So it's more like a concentrate than it is, not concentrated enough for juice, but too much just to drink straight.
Yeah, we grew up doing the grape juice and stuff like that. And yeah, we did it like in quart jars, and then you mix it with water before you actually drink it. And you want to add sugar or whatever you want to do. You can doctor it up after. But that's just the grape juice. And a couple of years ago, I was over at Herbie Kellogg's. He had a bunch of grapes and stuff. And so I was able to do that and then send it up to my folks for Christmas. And we hadn't done it for a long time. They were really appreciative of it.
Now,
But,
you
yeah.
either can freeze your juice at that point, or you can can it. And of course, what kind of can? jar. Water bath, right, you're gonna water bath it. And so he's got his water bath going here on the stove, or out on the camping stove, and then he's got some great grape juice that you can do year round. The one website that I went to that I got a lot of the pictures from, she did, I don't even know how many lugs of grapes that she had, but she had like, I don't know, 100 and something quarts of grape juice when she was done. She said it lasted her a year. They must drink a lot of grape juice. Ta-da!
But yeah, it's really nice, it's really fun, and it's really easy to do, especially for those
And you can do all those kinds of things. Anything that's juicy. And you can use the pulp for jams or something else. I don't remember the other one. Oh, you can make broth in there. You can actually do beef with it or meat with it, which I think is bizarre. But whatever. I'm just telling you, you can. All right. All right. Intermission. All right.
How much does one of those cost?
Those are about $60. You can get them cheaper. Okay, so they come in aluminum, stainless steel, and like this. So the aluminum ones are cheaper, but not a lot of people really want just straight aluminum these days. So they're about $60 for a stainless steel one. And you can get different size bucket, different size. They rate them by quart, so it's how many quarts of fruit it holds. All right, so before we go back to the tasting table, which we're going to do in just a second, we're going to give a little preview on the June thing. Then you're going to go to the tasting table. After the tasting table, you're going to come back. We're going to do Dry It Your Like It, and then breaking news. Okay. So, June 1st. Those of you that, how many of you have been to the No Power class before? Okay, so good. We have a lot of news. Yes, you're going to love this. Especially the guys. This is like the guys' all-time favorite class that we do. It is a guy toy class. Okay, so on June 1st, we're doing the first part of it, which is demonstrations. It's going to be 6 mini classes. They'll be 20 minutes each, and you'll have a 5-minute passing period to go to the next class, and we're going to rotate you. You'll get your rotation stuff that day when you come. You do not have to sign up for the classes. They're free to do the classes. This part is free. All right? It's from 9 to 11:30. It's going to be at the church on Lancaster Boulevard. On Avenue K across from the college. And I'll be sending you out more information on that if you need the address for that. And we're doing all these cookers. So we're going to do volcano stoves and Dutch oven cooking separately and how they work together. We're doing apple box baking where you can bake bread in an apple box. We're actually going to be baking cookies in it that day. You'll get hot cookies right out of the cardboard apple box. We're doing solar cooking, and I brought my brand new, hot off the press, hot off the line, the brand new sun oven, and we're going to learn about what's the difference between it and the other ones and why sun ovens are so much better than all the other ones that are out there. We're going to do Wonder Boxes, which, did you guys get my food out of my Wonder Box?
Just pick it up.
Okay, so it's really hot, huh? Okay, so I made a pasta dish about 3 hours ago, and just did it in my Wonder Box. You're going to learn how to do that on the 1st, so I'm not going to tell you all that, but I just put it in my Wonder Box and brought it, and it was so hot when I took the lid off when I got here, which was about an hour and a half later, that like all the steam came out when I took it off, just by sitting in my Wonder Box. So we're going to do that, and then we have a new class this year to make a different kind of rocket stove than we've done before. All it is stacking brick set. If you stack up 21 bricks, and you can just use twigs to cook in it. So you're going to learn all about how to do that. Now, the coolest thing about this class is that we do it outside. And so you will get to see all of these cookers in action. We're not going to talk to you about them. We're not going to show you pictures. You're going to see them in action. So it's really fun. So that's on the 1st. We have sign-ups for that. We have displays of most of the cookers over there. And you can actually sign up tonight for this next part. On June 22nd, we're having a workshop where you can come and make the Apple Box oven and the Wonder Box and take 2 parts of your rocket stove home with you. The rest of the bricks you'll actually be buying on your own because we chose not to buy them and carry all of them back to the church and then because they're so heavy. So, you'll be finding out more information at that class of where to get the bricks and what kind of bricks. So, you can go home that day with an Apple Box oven, a Wonder Box, and the 2 tricky parts to the rocket stove, and all for $57 if you do the deluxe model.
Now the deluxe model has to do the apple box oven, and the apple box, you can get the basic model or deluxe. Basic comes with the apple box oven itself and the rack. Sorry. So, it comes with, you see, the apple box oven and the rack. You will be providing your own 4 soda cans, empty soda cans, and bringing them that, you don't even have to bring that day, and I will give you a bag of rocks that you're going to fill them up to make them weighted. You'll be learning about that later. And you get this, which sits on top, which makes your, like your shelf in your oven. If you buy the deluxe model, which is $15 more, you get a,
Well, that's a little
I
tape.
know I just had it here.
Mine's
A
in-
cookie sheet, because these cookie sheets are not easy to find. You used to be able to get them at Walmart and a couple of other places, and now you can't. So,
Yeah.
you get a cookie sheet and you get a thermometer, so you actually
Yeah,
can
that's
know
what
the
you need.
temperature of your oven. Now, don't you need to know that? Okay, so
Thing
that's
like
$10 more. So it's $25 for this, for the deluxe, $18 for just the basic model, and the Wonder Box is $25. We're only offering one kind of that this year.
Yeah.
You didn't even know about the other kinds, we're not doing it, so I'm not telling you. Anyway,
So, I mean,
and then the rocket stove is $2 for what you're getting. You're gonna get the 2 cut bricks, because I figured most of you didn't know how to cut your own bricks. So you're gonna get the 2 cut bricks, and you're getting the shelf thing that goes in it for the air to go through. So that's it. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. All right, that's it. Tasting table. Oh, you can shut that off. Tasting table, 10 minutes, come back, we're gonna do class. In fact, grab your food and come back, because